All right, everybody, welcome back to Beans No Ball here for the Week 15 edition of our Sunday chat. I've been feeling a little under weather, but you guys got to get this one out here. So, Christian, let's just get it started with some news from this week.
Yeah, so let's kick it off with probably one of the major storylines of this week, which has to do with Mahomes and Andy Reid. They ended up getting fined for Andy Reid's comments against the officiating, and then obviously Mahomes' comment with the whole ref call. Obviously, these fines were kind of expected. I believe Mahomes was about 100,000, and Andy Reid was a little under 100,000 as well. Regardless, there was some pretty decently hefty fines just because of the officiating. Is kind of expected. Not really much to go over to that. So we pretty much covered everything we needed to do in the last episode. But obviously, Mahomes being whiny, and then Andy Reid, a guy we didn't really expect to make comments about that, happened, and got paid a hefty fine.
Yeah, just always surprising to see. Someone like Andy Reid turn out to be outspoken like that. And we'll see if they can actually bounce back from a pretty terrible look from last week. Of course, moving into some other pretty big news that came out this week with Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, we know that return is looking imminent. We don't know. It's going to be in the end more of, how the Jets are looking. But, they're pretty much out of the playoff race, and we're still talking about Rodgers coming back in a couple weeks. It's reported that he can be medically cleared by this week and could come back for next week's game. Obviously, we're both in agreement here. We don't really see a point in rushing him back, risking himself for a worse injury, but clearly Rodgers just wants to be on the field. And I guess what the whole point was, hopefully to get Zach Wilson to learn from him. If they want to get that done for at least the last two, 3 games for this season, we will wait and see, but just doesn't really seem like the smartest move to make right now.
Yeah, obviously we've had this conversation before. Recovering an Achilles in under 4 months. The Achilles is gonna once again get injured if he gets on the field. So I said it before, just wait till next season. Jets really have nowhere to go from this point. And now transitioning into the coaches news for the week of Arthur Smith. After very horrible coaching with the Atlanta Falcons and their collapse this season, which really expect them to do decently better, he will remain the coach during the offseason. Obviously, this is something that I'm not really looking forward to, since Arthur Smith is pretty much holding back the potential of these Atlanta Falcons player. I know he's another example, which we talk about Brandon Staley, that he finally got fired. But Arthur Smith, with him, some couple of weeks where he wasn't using Bijan Robinson, which kind of hurt the offense a little bit. Offense in a whole is already struggling, especially with the whole quarterback situation. With Arthur Smith, he's just pushing the agenda a little bit more harder for them to look a little worse. So keeping him as the head coach is just not going to benefit the Atlanta Falcons moving in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and as much as I don't agree with the way they've handled Kyle Pitts and Bijan, at the end of the day, it does make sense. They haven't even given him a quarterback to really work with, so it makes sense to give him a year. If they pick up a good quarterback, like the rumors have said, maybe someone like Kirk Cousins heading to Atlanta, if he gets to see what he can do with a really good quarterback, that could be something to see. Of course, moving into another well-known quarterback, a former Viking himself here, in Teddy Bridgewater. He has announced that he will be hanging it up at the end of this season. Obviously, pretty bittersweet to see this. Obviously, I believe when he came out in the 2014 draft, he was so highly touted, and of course it was the injuries that really fucked with his career. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see his full potential, and he will be getting into high school coaching. So I don't know if it's been told which school he's going to, but regardless whichever school's getting him, they're getting a great football mind. It's gonna obviously just a lot of great development for those kids.
Yeah, obviously Teddy Bridgewater, he's really a guy who really had a lot of potential coming into this league. Really saw if he can be the Vikings franchise guy, but obviously injuries, man, they kill a lot of players' careers, and that's what really hurt it. And now moving on to still with the coaching side, which is something that I brought up earlier this week, is Bill Belichick and the Patriots. There will be mutually parting ways in the offseason. And this was discussed after their Week 10 loss, which was another horrible loss for the Patriots. So Bill Belichick's tenure with the Patriots, so he's just gonna ride off to the end of the season, see what he can do. Obviously at this point, I wouldn't see any games winning just to hurt his career, since we've said before, he's got it on lock. It doesn't matter. It's the Hall of Fame on lock. It's just this season's really looking bad on his agenda, but. This is going to be starting a new wave for the Patriots. It's going to be a new era. See where it's going to go. Whether obviously jokes here and there, but if they could pick up Drake May in the draft, which is a player that everyone wants the Patriots to get, who knows? But regardless, the Belichick era in New England will be coming to a close soon.
Yeah, obviously this is something that we've been talking about for a long time, and I mean we called for it just about around that Colts game, and clearly now we see reports were made, just wasn't made public. But of course that is going to wrap us up for the news, and we'll move it into cash or trash. Last week we hit some running backs, and Christian, you finally evened it up on me. We finally stopped splitting these games. I mean, obviously, Kyren Williams, thankfully for me, even in a loss, but gave just a slight edge over Alvin Kamara. And I mean, you got away with a little one. That Khalil Herbert, luckily, he did see RB2 numbers that they did start using. I forget who, but the other running back that the Bears have right now, they decided to use him as the one. So obviously, Herbert barely got any production for you, and I mean, same for Madison, but Herbert did a little worse. Of course, we'll move it into wide receivers this week. And for me, kind of surprised I haven't decided to roll with him yet, but I'm going to go with Puka this week. I'm going to see it going against the Commanders defense. The secondary isn't nothing that really comes out at you at the end of the day, still to see. I mean, I would expect Cooper Kupp to be more involved, not with a more... I mean, I guess, a less touted secondary core, but I still would expect Puka to get most of the production. I mean, hopefully this is a game that we can actually see that 1-2 punch, but still, I do expect a lot of great things for Puka here. And for trash, I'm going to go with Marquise Brown from the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, I mean, this one speaks for itself. They're going up against the San Francisco 49ers. We saw he got pretty clamped up in that matchup last time out. Back in San Francisco, obviously this one comes back home, and I mean, I'm not seeing much of a difference. That stingy Niners defense gonna do a great job. I mean, still expect a pretty decent job. Obviously, Kyler's gonna keep it close, but don't expect too much coming out of Marquise Brown.
Yeah, and as for my cash player, I'm gonna go with Mike Evans from the Bucks. I think this is another surprise for me why I haven't picked him. I mean, Mike Evans, Hall of Fame on lock. He's just been having historic numbers this season, and obviously, with Baker at quarterback, a lot of people thought he wasn't really going to succeed. But I'm gonna go with Mike Evans, especially against today's game. So hopefully he doesn't come by me in the ass where I finally pick a good player and he just decides to chop a shitter. And as for my trash, I'm gonna go Gabe Davis from the Bills. Obviously, he's playing my Cowboys team. And once again, I hope there's another one where it comes by me in the ass and he decides to go generational on this secondary. But I feel like with the way my Cowboys have been playing, the players on the secondary are stepping up. I feel like they'll probably lock up Davis for most of the game.
Yeah, definitely so. Davis really kind of going under the radar. He could say he's due for one, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, obviously, still kind of experimenting with how we're going to end these videos. We're going to bring in a somewhat still new topic. I'll see what we end up calling. We didn't even discuss a name, but we're going to be going over some odds and basically some pick'ems. And I mean, disclaimer, we are no betting experts. These are just our opinions. Don't take our word that seriously, but we're gonna talk about a couple betting odds. So I'll start it off here. Kind of related to what we did last week with we'll take two positions each. So in the Giants and Saints game, the over-under set at 39.5. I'm going to take the over here. I'm not expecting any defensive strength in this game. I know this is the one game that we disagreed during this week, so we'll definitely have a lot of eyes here. And I would honestly expect, I mean, the quarterback play probably won't be the greatest, but the defensive play is nothing to show up for. And in this game, I have a wide receiver, and I'm going to go with Chris Olave. He is projected at 14.8 fantasy points. I'm going to expect him to hit the over on that. Obviously, like I'm saying, not much defensive strength in this game. I expect a great game for Olave. And for my second game, I'm going to look into a game that I just talked about in the Niners and the Cardinals. This one is set at a pretty high over-under at 48.5. I'm going to expect it to hit the over. Just going to expect the Niners to run it up on the Cardinals. I'm expecting, Brock Purdy and all the big weapons. I'm expecting just a really strong game, probably run up, win by 30, something like that. So expecting a really good one here. And for a tight end in this game, obviously I'm going to go with George Kittle. I'm expecting him to go under. He's projected at 13.3. He kind of goes iffy. I mean, this is a risky pick because he already had basically a pretty big shitter against the Cardinals in the earlier matchup, so he might be due for one. but I'm not expecting him to be too involved. I'm expecting the receivers to really get most of the production. Of course, Christian McCaffrey too.
Yeah, that's for my game. Starting off with Cleveland and Chicago, I'm obviously going to take the over on this one, just the way the two teams been playing. Obviously, the way Chicago played against the Lions last week, and the way the Joe Flacco has been leading this Browns team. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be quite a high scoring game and a very close game as well. And then the player pick for this game is going to be Joe Flacco. He's projected at 12.5. He's projected at 12.5 points, and I'm going to take the over on this one, especially against that Chicago defense. It's good. It's starting to pick it up a bit, but the way Joe Flacco's been playing, I'm going to go for the over on this one. And then the Houston and Tennessee game. I mean, obviously ruled out. It's been confirmed a couple days ago. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. CJ Stroud, he is not playing that game, and it's I would say it's going to be a pretty low offensive battle between both teams, just with the whole quarterback thing. Sure, Will Levis is picking it up a bit, but I'm just not going to see too much there, so I will be taking the under on that one. And for my running back, I'm going to go Derrick Henry. He is projected at 52.2, and from his last 2 games, he's been carrying the load once again, actually playing very well. So from the way he's been doing, I'm going to go the over on this one as well, maybe by just a little bit. So I got Derrick Henry, maybe at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, obviously going pretty heavy on the over in these games, hoping for some offensive drives. Only 1 under was taken in these picks. Of course, that is going to wrap us up. We'll see how much we maintain on this, see how we let that grow. But that's going to wrap up our Sunday chat for week 15. Honestly, thank you guys for watching. Hope you like and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next one.